While sitting behind his desk at his boring work, Seong recalls a strange thing that happened the day before. He had been in his room when a status window suddenly appeared in front of him. The interface looked like an online shopping platform. He tried to buy some of the items, but no matter how many times he clicked, he couldn't purchase anything. He wonders if it's because his account shows 0 coins. He is even more confused since the status window resembles the ones he has seen in apocalypse stories. While he is thinking this, his manager barges into the room, yelling at him for spacing out and demanding an update on a task from last week. Seong tries to remain calm to avoid losing his temper. He knows the manager is upset because he missed a promotion twice, though it's his own fault. Things escalate when a coworker, A, calls the manager. Being the lecherous man he is, the manager ignores Seong and rushes over to Shirona, promising to drop the issue because of her. He begins touching her inappropriately, making her gently pull her hand back. He suggests having dinner together since she is dressed nicely, but Shirona politely refuses, saying she already has other plans for the day. After being rejected, the manager leaves the room, and both Shirona and Seong breathe a sigh of relief now that the troublesome man is gone. Seong thanks her for helping him out. Later, he goes up to the roof to relax and smoke, preferring the quiet where the manager can't yell at him. He's tired of his job, but can't quit because finding another one is difficult, especially since he works for a large corporation. Thinking of Shiona's help, he considers bringing her a cup of coffee after work. Just then, Shirona appears on the roof, surprising Seong since she has no reason to be there. She's not a smoker. She explains she came to escape the manager, who has been causing trouble for other employees. She noticed the chaos and quickly left the office before he could bother her. Shirona then mentions that it feels cold outside. Seong slightly agrees, noting it's strange because it's summer. Shirona says she feels very cold, rolling up her sleeves to show goosebumps. Seong, however, doesn't think it's that bad. Shirona insists she's not alone and shows a video as proof, revealing snow falling in Africa, which is obviously unusual. Seong takes the phone to examine it closely, skeptical at first, but once he confirms the video's authenticity, he admits something is clearly wrong. Just then, they receive a warning from the meteorology department about a cold wave, further confusing them since it's summer, and such a warning is highly unusual. The two assume the meteorology department must have been hacked since there's no way such a warning would be issued. Suddenly, snowflakes start falling, and they realize they're in serious trouble. By later that day, everything is already covered in snow, which is extremely strange for summer. Seong concludes that the world has gone mad, as that's the only explanation. Being the only one left on a roof, he decides it's time to pack up and leave before traffic gets worse. He reaches the elevator, but it won't work, leaving him frustrated and freezing. He's forced to take the stairs. While descending, he recalls the status window from the previous day. The combination of the strange weather and the window gives him an uneasy feeling that they might be connected. Reaching his office floor, he sees the elevator working again, ruling out the idea that it was broken, but notices the doors repeatedly opening and closing, making him suspect someone is holding them. Things get even stranger when the building experiences a blackout. Seong worries and considers fleeing without gathering his things. Suddenly, he hears a metallic scraping sound in the distance, which unsettles him, but he still proceeds to the office to collect his belongings. Once inside, he finds no one there, making him wonder if everyone already left while he was on the roof. However, the messy tables indicate that no one has packed anything, adding another layer of confusion to the bizarre situation. With everything he is seeing and hearing, Seong knows that something is seriously wrong. He grabs his backpack, but just as he's about to leave, he notices a strange shadow behind him and dashes into the meeting room. He steps on an ID card, and when he picks it up, it's bloodied, shocking him completely. Looking through the office window, he sees a coworker being attacked by a zombie. Startled, Seong draws the zombie's attention. Their eyes meet, and the monster immediately begins chasing him with the intent of killing him. Throwing aside all doubts, Seong runs for his life. Seeing the zombie closing in, he grabs an office chair and hurls it at the creature, disorienting it just enough to sprint to the nearest door. He locks the door behind him, and the zombie abandons the chase. Xiang, drenched in sweat, struggles to believe he just had a near-death experience. Shaken, he falls to the ground, realizing without a doubt that the creature was a zombie. Checking his phone, he sees an emergency message from the government warning citizens about a rabies virus outbreak. Xiang is stunned and incredulous, knowing that the authorities are clearly underestimating the situation. What just chased him was a zombie, not a human infected with rabies. Xiang flips through other news channels and notices that all of them are reporting on the strange events happening across the city. As chaos spreads throughout the country, he begins connecting these incidents to the status window he saw the day before. He searches the internet to see if anyone else has experienced the same thing, but his results come up empty. Suddenly, his internet connection cuts off, leaving him completely isolated and freaking him out even more. Xiang realizes he is in serious trouble. To make matters worse, he starts feeling the intense cold and worries that he might freeze to death before the zombies can even reach him. Determined not to give up, he stands up and decides to help himself while waiting for rescue. Checking his phone, he sees it's at 83% and calculates that if he manages it carefully, the battery could last 3 days. He turns on the flashlight and begins climbing the stairs until he reaches the 7th floor, home to the construction department. Looking around, he hears and sees nothing, so he assumes there's no immediate danger. Entering an office, he searches for clothes and finds some that fit better than what he's wearing. He also discovers a bag filled with snacks, water, and a blanket, which excites him and feels like a lifesaver. After securing supplies, Xiang decides that getting a weapon is essential, and as he begins searching, luck, or perhaps the favor of the Manhwa, shines upon him once again. Xiang discovers a stash of golf clubs in a closet and selects one to use as a weapon. After gathering his supplies, he sits down to assess his situation, wondering if what he has will last for 3 days. He hopes to survive until a rescue team arrives, but at the same time, he worries that help might not come at all. Standing by the window, he is horrified to see the entire street overrun by zombies, and the harsh weather makes any helicopter rescue seem impossible. Sitting down in fear, he grimly considers that a rescue team might not show up for a whole week. He checks the status window again and notices winter clothes for sale, but he cannot buy them. Exhausted and worried about how to get coins, he falls asleep, only to be awakened by the sound of approaching footsteps. Immediately on guard, he grips his golf club, ready to defend himself against a possible zombie. The door opens, and just as he is about to strike, a voice yells at him to wait. Xiang freezes, surprised to see it's one of his coworkers, Jumin. Although Jumin can be annoying at work, Xiang decides not to attack him. The two sit down, and Jumin begins recounting his experience, explaining that he had been in the break room when he suddenly heard a loud bang on the door from outside. Before the zombies could reach him, Xiang quickly locks the door and asks Jumin how he managed to escape. Jumin explains that he pushed the door open and ran to the emergency exit before the zombies could catch him. Xiang is confused by his story and assumes he's talking nonsense. Suddenly, Jumin asks if Xiang has anything to eat, and Xiang says no, unwilling to share his ration, though he offers him water. Xiang stands to fetch water, but Jumin grabs his hand, insisting he truly has nothing edible. Surprised, Xiang still goes to get the water, replaying the incident in his mind and noting that something is off. Jumin is sweating while everyone else feels cold. Dismissing his suspicion as paranoia, Xiang is suddenly attacked from behind by Jumin. He pushes him back with force, sending him crashing into the wall. Terrified but resolute, Xiang realizes Jumin has turned into a zombie and strikes him repeatedly with a golf club until he is sure he's dead. Immediately, he receives a notification from the status window showing he's earned a coin, shocking him but also revealing that killing zombies earns him money to buy items from a store. He's disappointed to see it's only 1 coin despite the risk to his life. Xiang approaches Jumin's body and notices a bite mark on his arm, realizing that's where the infection began. After this, he sits down to smoke a stick of cig, trying to calm himself. Xiang realizes he can't trust anyone just because they appear normal. Anyone could turn into a zombie and attack him. Despite how grim things look, he's glad to have a pack of cigs to ease his stress. Covering himself with a blanket, he knows he needs to move to find supplies. Looking out the window, he sees a man trying to escape the building, only to be overrun by zombies. And within a minute, the dead man rises as one of them. The sight startles Xiang, making him stagger back. Before he knows it, he realizes he's been stuck in the building for 3 days, during which he's mostly been staring out the window to conserve energy. His battery has dropped to 3%, and he only has a few snacks left, enough to keep him going. While observing, he saw several others attempt to flee, only to be turned into zombies. Even so, he doesn't plan to stay put forever and believes he must move, assuming there are other survivors he can team up with to escape. He decides his first stop will be the 6th floor and plans to check the entrance, just as Jimin had mentioned. As he's about to move, the building's power suddenly comes back on, surprising him. Rushing to the window, he expects everything to be lit, but outside remains completely dark. Although it's a dead end, Xiang takes comfort in the fact that someone activated the generator. Knowing the light could go out at any moment, he resolves to find survivors quickly and begins heading down the stairs, thinking they might be in the management or security offices.
Thankfully, both the management and security offices are on the 1st floor, making things a bit easier for Xiang. Before continuing, he removes his shoes to avoid drawing attention. As he moves down the floors, he checks one office and sees that it's barricaded, which excites him since it confirms there are survivors in the building. However, he still needs to reach the 1st floor, so he decides to find out who the survivor is later. Continuing his journey, he doesn't encounter any zombies for several minutes. When he finally reaches the main lobby, he peeks outside, hoping to see none, but finds a horde of zombies roaming around, confirming that escaping now would be suicidal. At the same time, he's relieved that the zombies haven't broken into the building yet, though he knows the doors might not hold for long. While the zombies are distracted, he steps out carefully and makes a run for it, eventually reaching the management office. There are no survivors inside, only the body of a kind man who used to greet him every morning. He had died of hypothermia, and Xiang approaches to close his eyes so he can rest in peace. He then heads to the security office, the other possible location for a survivor, and approaches cautiously, aware that the person inside might have set traps for intruders, something he would do too. Those zombies wander nearby. Their poor eyesight allows him to move safely. Knowing they are sensitive to sound, Xiang begins knocking on the door carefully, presenting himself as non-threatening in hopes of surviving the encounter. After knocking for a while, Xiang decides to open the door, assuming the person inside has realized a human is trying to get in. As soon as he opens it, a stick flies toward his face, but anticipating the attack, he dodges and blocks it with his golf club. The noise, however, attracts nearby zombies. The survivor quickly pulls Xiang inside and shuts the door. With weapons raised, they stare at each other cautiously. Xiang asks if the man is human, and he confirms that he is. The man, in turn, asks Xiang the same, and Xiang replies yes. Xiang explains that he came after noticing the emergency generator had turned on, then shows his ID to build trust, giving his name and office location before the apocalypse. The survivor introduces himself as Jong from the development team. Xiang worries briefly that Jong might be hiding a zombie bite, but notices he isn't sweating like Jimin and seems very cold. He sees Jong's backpack and wonders why he needed so many supplies, assuming perhaps hunger drove him to stockpile, though a transitioning zombie wouldn't have such control. Xiang points to him, but realizes it might make Jong suspicious, so he eases the tension by offering him a cigarette. Jong relaxes and happily shares a puff, admitting he feels alive again. Xiang relates, noting that cigs are one of the few comforts left. Talking about his hunger, Xiang watches as Jong reaches into his backpack, revealing the amount of supplies he has, likely taken from the storeroom. Jong gives Xiang some snacks, advising him to eat slowly to avoid indigestion. While munching on the food, Xiang asks Jong if he has cleared the entire 2nd floor, and Jong confirms that he has since no one else is coming back to eat. Xiang laughs, and Jong joins in. Xiang then inquires about the situation on the 2nd floor, and Jong admits it's pretty bad. He explains that he was initially trapped with a colleague, and they shared supplies. However, the colleague kept insisting he needed to move. Jong suggested waiting for rescue, but the man ignored him and stubbornly left, only to get infected shortly after. Later, Jong himself had to leave the room because his battery was running low. When asked how he escaped the zombies, he explains that he distracted them by throwing something to the other side of the room and then escaping in the opposite direction. Xiang is impressed by his cleverness and commends him. Xiang then asks if Jong was the one who turned on the emergency generator, and he confirms it. When Xiang asks why, Jong explains that he needed to charge his phone and power bank. Xiang is surprised, believing there's no reason to charge devices again, which shocks Jong, who asks if Xiang has been surviving without internet. Xiang admits there's none, and Jong informs him that satellite internet is still available. He explains that the Space Link internet is working, though only a few servers remain, and some communities are still active for communication. Xiang is amazed, and Jong promises to help him charge his phone once he finishes charging his own. Moments later, Xiang manages to charge his phone and connects to Space Link, shocking him. With this, he can see the other active communities, and he thanks Jong for helping him get online and for telling him about the communities. Shortly after, the generator starts to sputter, signaling it's about to run out of power. Jong asks what Xiang plans to do, and before he can answer, Jong reveals that he intends to stay in the room. Assessing the situation and reading Jong's body language, Xiang realizes the man wants him to leave. He understands that Jong has already prepared the room to hold out, and that Xiang is just a stranger in his territory. Moreover, their objectives conflict. Xiang wants to explore the building, while Jong wants to stay put. Accepting this, Xiang tells Jong he will be leaving. Jong sighs in relief and drops the stick he was holding. Before Xiang leaves, Jong reaches into his backpack and gives him a power bank and a flashlight as a gift. Xiang thanks him, appreciating the gesture in a situation where nothing is reliable, and in return, he gives Jong 2 cigarettes. They say their goodbyes, hoping to see each other alive again. Xiang steps out of the room, knowing he must hurry before the power dies. He sneaks past the unaware zombies and heads for the stairs, thinking about going to the basement to escape in the company car he usually drives, but quickly realizes that escaping the building might be the worst decision he could make. Xiang believes that the right time to escape will come, but leaving the building now would be reckless. He decides to continue moving upward to gather information before attempting an escape. As he climbs the stairs, the generator dies, plunging everything into darkness. Unfazed, he switches on his flashlight and proceeds slowly. When he reaches the 6th floor, he hears movement above and fears it might be a zombie. Armed with his golf club, he prepares to fight if necessary. Reaching the source of the sound, he's initially relieved to see the zombie facing the rooftop. Planning to sneak past, he's surprised when it suddenly turns and jumps at him. He raises his golf club, striking the zombie and sending it crashing into the wall, leaving a dent. The zombie isn't finished and turns to attack again, so Xiang smashes it repeatedly with his club, eventually forcing it down the stairs. Even then, the zombie crawls back, forcing him to strike its head until it finally dies. Afterward, he receives another coin via the status window, allowing him to purchase essential items. Noticing one of his golf clubs is bent from the fight, he decides to save the coins for later. Still, he wonders where the zombie came from, since the rooftop is closed, and suspects it might have come from another floor. Xiang realizes that the 7th floor he's excited to reach might not even be safe. He cautiously opens an office door and, to his relief, finds no zombies inside. He sits down to drink water and rest, reflecting on his encounter with the fast-moving zombie. Comparing it to a wild animal, he concludes that it may have been quick even as a human, and knows he would have been dead if there had been 2 of them. He decides that his best options are to either find a partner or put himself in situations where he only faces 1 zombie at a time. Believing the internet might provide more information, he logs into the survivor gallery and finds 132 posts. One user from Gangwon province reports that the freezing weather turned tap water to ice instantly, while another mentions being bitten and fearing he will turn into a zombie. Disappointed by the lack of practical information, Xiang relies on his own observations. Zombies have poor sight, are highly sensitive to sound, remain active until their heads are destroyed, and anyone bitten turns into one. Realizing the government has collapsed, he understands that no one is coming to save him, and he must survive alone in this harsh world. On the 5th day, he starts feeling extremely cold, and knows catching a virus now would be fatal. To generate heat, he does jumping jacks, and afterward consumes a whole chocolate bar to replenish calories. He leaves his shoes behind to move more quietly and lightly, and resolves to find food before his situation worsens further. Remembering Jong's story, Xiang believes there might be food in the backpack of his colleague who turned into a zombie. He makes his way into the development team room, but notices at least 4 zombies, making it impossible to grab the bag unnoticed. He decides to take out the zombies one by one before claiming the backpack. Carefully surveying the room, he counts 3 zombies but suspects there's a 4th. He plans to avoid unprepared encounters and looks for tools he can use, finding some in the surrounding offices, which excites him. Ready, he throws an object in the opposite direction, creating a noise that lures the nearest zombie. Hidden in the perfect spot, he smashes the zombie's head with his golf club as it rushes toward the sound. Before the other zombies can reach him, he locks the door, trapping them outside. Smiling at his successful plan, he is suddenly grabbed by the first zombie at his ankle. Panicking as it raises its mouth to bite, he drops the flashlight from his mouth and reacts quickly, smashing the zombie's head with his foot. Seeing it still moving, he goes into survival mode and repeatedly strikes it with a golf club until it's definitely dead. Shaken, he realizes how close he came to dying due to carelessness. After calming down, he remembers 2 zombies are left. Picking up his flashlight again, he holds it in his mouth and prepares to deal with the remaining zombies before attracting others, using the light to focus one zombie's attention as part of his plan. Xiang picks out his target, the zombie carrying the backpack. He throws a spoon in its direction, forcing the zombie to chase it. Once the zombie moves, Xiang ambushes it and smashes its head, taking it down. He receives a notification from the system showing he has earned 4 coins. Breathing heavily after taking out his target, he notices that his golf club is completely damaged and unusable. However, the zombie is dead, and he begins taking the backpack off its body. Xiang smiles, satisfied that his plan worked perfectly. Without a weapon, he decides it is time to leave. Carrying the heavy backpack, he steps out of the room and considers searching the area since it is silent. Looking around, he finds a bottle of nutritional supplements. After finishing in the Development Team 1 office, he thinks searching Development Team 2's office might also be useful. Suddenly, he hears a noise behind him and is startled. Fearing it might be a zombie and knowing he has no weapon, he realizes he would be in serious danger. Xiang decides that running back to the office is the safest choice. Once inside, he calms down, believing he is safe. He checks the backpack he almost risked his life for and finds 3 cups of chips, 2 boxes of choco pies, a tin of cookies, 5 cups of ramen, and a can of cola. Overjoyed, he realizes the supplies could last him at least a month as long as he has water. Sitting back, he concludes that risking his life for these supplies was worth it. As the excitement fades, he notices that he feels cold, and his wet feet make it worse. He decides to wash the blood off his feet, feeling even colder as he does so. He never imagined in his life that he would be washing his feet in ice-cold water. Suddenly, he notices a wound on his ankle. Panic immediately sets in. He realizes the injury came from when the zombie grabbed his ankle earlier. Zhang calms himself by remembering that only a bite can turn someone into a zombie. He checks the community group for confirmation. Sean's face lights up with relief when he reads that scratches from zombies are harmless. Apparently, another user was scratched and has been fined for weeks. Although relieved, Zhang knows he still needs to treat the wound. His feet are getting colder, and he worries about frostbite if he doesn't warm them up. Unsure how to do that, he opens a status window and sees he has 6 coins. He browses the shop, remembering the winter clothes he saw before. In the clothes section, he finds winter clothing, coats for 3 coins, boots for 3 coins, gloves for 3 coins, and hats for 3 coins. Zhang feels devastated by the prices, but realizes he has no choice and buys the winter boots. To his surprise, the boots appear right in front of him. He picks them up, excited and shocked that they might actually fit. To his relief, they fit perfectly. Without hesitation, he puts them on and wonders if the shop items are somehow customized for him. Once the boots are on, he remembers his cold feet and realizes the boots won't warm them fully. He searches the shop again and scrolls relentlessly until he finds a hot pack for 1 coin. Zhang buys it, feeling glad despite thinking it's a bit expensive. The hot pack helps him feel much better, easing both the cold and his worry. Xiang places the hot pack on his feet, feeling the warmth spread and a smile forming from the relief it brings. On the 7th day, he tries to get water, but realizes the supply has finally been cut off. He had anticipated this and stored at least 2 liters in bottles, but he worries it will only last 3 to 4 days before he must search for more. The loss leaves him frustrated. He lies down, feeling despair and wondering why this is happening. Checking his phone for updates, he sees that others in the group are also reporting lost water supplies. One user mentions planning a dangerous trip to the supermarket and promises to update the group if he survives. As Xiang scrolls through the posts, he notices fewer updates each day, realizing that more people are dying. Outside the window, he sees no signs of survivors. Though he fears they may all be wiped out, he clings to the hope that some survivors exist elsewhere. On the 8th day, Xiang tries to contact a user who went to the supermarket but receives no reply. The group assumes he has died. Initially hopeful, Xiang now recognizes that survival will be far harder than he imagined. He still has food and water, but he admits the bitter truth. He cannot wait in the building forever. He resolves to find a survivor and make an ally, knowing surviving outside will be much more difficult. However, he has no weapon. Searching his supplies, he finds a single usable golf club. He had hoped the clubs would last longer, but each one becomes nearly useless after taking down 3 or 4 zombies. Looking into the shop, he sees a hammer designed specifically to kill zombies, but it costs 5 coins. With only 2 coins left, he decides that buying winter clothes will serve him better than purchasing a weapon. Determined, Xiang leaves the office to explore the other floors. He reaches an office and sees bloodstains everywhere. From the smell, he realizes they are from zombies, yet there are no bodies in sight. He wonders what could have happened here. Suddenly, he notices a locked door. He tries to open it, but it won't budge. He assumes someone might be hiding inside, but hearing nothing, he decides to break it down. Smashing the door with his golf club, he rushes in and is shocked to find zombie bodies lined up across the room. Counting quickly, he realizes there are at least 10 zombies. He is stunned, unsure who could have taken him out. He wonders if someone as strong exists in the company, thinking that allying with them would be a huge advantage. Searching the room yields nothing useful. He notices that the other offices have also been cleared, meaning the entire area has been swept. This realization hits him hard. His search seems wasted. He ponders who could have done it and doubts it was just one person, assuming instead that a group may have gone through the offices. He wonders if they're still in the building. Then he finds a note left behind by whoever cleared the offices. It reads, "If you are reading this, it means you have entered the 4th floor alive. As a fellow human, I am glad to know that. I'm sorry, but I've taken everything on the 4th floor that could be used as food. Don't bother checking the break room. I've searched all the drawers so you won't waste your effort. Do not open the door to the senior managing director's office. I've piled up the zombie corpses in there." The note continues, mentioning a shirt left in a cabinet and advising against going to the 5th floor. The writer explains they are leaving the building and heading to the West Coast, which seems safer against zombies. They also note that they left at 10 a.m. on the 8th day since the outbreak. Xiang is shocked to realize that the note was left only yesterday. He realizes that he might have caught up to the person if he had moved earlier. Continuing to read the note, he sees that it was left by assistant manager Yun Hyukjai from the accounting team. Yun wishes whoever finds the letter good luck. Xiang recognizes Yun, as they were colleagues from the same year. Apparently, Yun was in the special forces, which explains how he could take out the zombies so easily. Flipping the note over, Xiang sees that Yin left a small gift in an office drawer for anyone who found the letter. He rushes to the drawer and discovers some coffee mix. On the 10th day of the zombie apocalypse, Xiang finds himself staring at Yun's warning about the 5th floor. He wonders why Yun specifically mentioned it, since it's the president's office and should logically have fewer zombies. Yet Xiang trusts that Yun would not leave a warning without a solid reason. Xiang then notices that he hasn't seen any survivors since the day before. He knows that his chances of finding an ally are shrinking, and he is determined not to miss another opportunity. Wondering how many floors he must search, he suddenly sees a light flashing from across the building. Shocked, he realizes someone has tried to signal him. Standing by the window, he watches as the person across the building holds up a note. The distance makes it impossible to read the contents, but then Xiang remembers he can use his phone camera to zoom in. Through the camera, he reads that there are people on the 6th and 7th floors. They also have 2 additional companions and want to know if Xiang can team up with them. His face lights up with excitement. He has finally found survivors. He decides to check on the person on the 6th floor before planning his next move to the other building. He reaches the 6th floor and is surprised to find the entrance unblocked. Cautiously, he approaches the door, signaling that he means no harm. Suddenly, a zombie lunges at him from behind. He spins around just in time and blocks the attack with his golf club. The zombie pins him to the ground, but Xiang refuses to give up. Using his foot for leverage, He pushes the zombie off balance and strikes immediately, swinging the club repeatedly at its head until it is completely smashed. A notification pops up, rewarding him 1 coin for the kill. Seong moves further into the floor, hoping to find the survivor, though he begins to doubt the person across the building had been truthful. Just then, a sound behind him confirms that someone is indeed there. He approaches the door, reassuring whoever is inside that he is not a threat and only wants to team up. He mentions his department at the company before everything fell apart. At first, the person inside refuses to open the door. Seong considers breaking it down, but just as he is about to strike, the voice asks if he is the person outside. Relieved, he confirms, and the door opens. The two are shocked to see each other. Siona lets him in and recounts her experience. She explains that she had been hiding on the floor from the start, but the night before, a man approached, demanding she open the door. Siona noticed something was off and refused, but he forced his way in. For her safety, she hid in the break room, and less than an hour later, the man had turned into a zombie. Seong then realizes that the zombie he just killed was the same man. Siona points out that she has a weapon, a makeshift spear made from a mop. Seong recalls seeing something similar with Jong. She explains how useful it has been, and, judging by the blood on it, Seong realizes she has already taken down several zombies. Despite this, he worries that, as a woman alone, she might be more of a liability in a world now dangerous not only because of zombie, but also because of plunderers. Just as he prepares to leave, Siona grabs his hand, begging him not to go, insisting she cannot survive on her own. When Siona notices that Seong is still hesitant, she tells him that she used a fence. She reveals that she cleared the zombies on the 6th floor herself and offers to show him the bodies. Seong is shocked, and Siona adds that he will regret leaving her behind. Overwhelmed by all this information, Seong realizes there's no choice but to shake her hand and agree to team up. Once they've joined forces, Siona shows Seong the supplies she has gathered so far. She is surprised to see that he has power banks and asks if communications are still working. Seong explains that there is an internet provider called SpaceLink. Excited, Siona suggests they collect all the power banks they can. Seong asks how many zombies she has taken down, and she reveals 8, plus the one Seong just killed makes 9. Seong is grateful that he decided to team up with her. After searching the office, they find only 2 power banks. Seong then notices marks on a door and asks Siona about them. She assumes the marks were left by the zombie from yesterday. Investigating further, Seong discovers a vernier caliper. He is thrilled. It's solid metal and could be used as a weapon, but worries it's too short. Siona smiles and takes the caliper, tying it to her spear to make a more efficient weapon. Seong realizes he can both stab and swing it. Siona proudly tells him it was the right decision to team up, and Seong thanks her for her ingenuity. He recognizes that having a capable teammate brings significant advantages. Looking at the food they've gathered, Seong realizes they won't have to worry about supplies for a while. He notices a frying pan and asks Siona why she brought it. She explains she had brought it to return for a refund because she didn't like the color, but never got the chance before everything went wrong. Seong points out that the frying pan will be useful for melting snow into drinking water. Just then, Siona asks how he knew she was there. Seong explains to Siona that he learned about the other survivors from someone across the building. He describes how they signaled with a light and passed messages through a note, which he photographed to read. Siona becomes suspicious, realizing it might be risky to team up with strangers they don't really know. She explains that she agreed to join Seong because she might not find another trustworthy person, carefully weighing the type of teammate she brings along. After hearing her reasoning, Seong suggests abandoning the idea of teaming up with the people from the other building. Siona thanks him for considering her opinion. She then mentions the possibility that their manager, Choi, might still be alive. Seong is shocked. Siona recalls being with Choi on the first day, but he later ran off while she hid in the break room, and he took refuge in the bathroom. He asked for her help, but she refused out of fear. Later, she confirmed he had escaped. When Seong asks when Choi left, she says it was the night of the second day. Based on his exploration, Seong suspects Choi might now be hiding on the 3rd or 5th floor. That night, while Siona sleeps, Seong thinks about what could happen next. He worries that the people across the building might team up with Choi if he doesn't respond soon. He fears that Choi and the group might eventually come for him and Siona. Still, he decides to set aside these worries, not wanting to stress over what's out of his control. Grateful for the extra coins he now has, he considers buying more gear. He debates between getting a warm hat for himself or warm boots for Siona to help her with the cold. Xiang realizes that Siona could become a liability if she gets frostbite on her feet. The most logical choice is to get her warm boots, but he remains indecisive. Since they have no urgent reason to move, he decides to sleep and make the decision the next day. When he wakes up, he sees Siona checking her phone and asks how much battery life is left. She has only 22% remaining, despite charging with her power banks. Siona then mentions a solar generator on the roof and asks Xiang if he has checked it. Confused, Xiang admits he didn't know about it. She explains that she was in charge of the project, which was intended to support a small business. The solar panels were installed on the roof, but the project was canceled after a flaw was discovered, though it wasn't a safety issue. Xiang asks if she knows how to operate it, and she confirms that she does. Excited, Xiang suggests they check it out. They head to the roof, struggling to open the door because of the cold, but finally manage with effort. The solar panels are still on the ledge above them, and a ladder is present but cannot be lowered. Siona suggests she climb up first. Xiang helps her use his hand as a lift-off point, and she jumps and grabs the ledge, managing to climb up. Xiang is impressed by her agility, remembering that Siona is an athlete. Siona begins taking apart the panels to lower them for Xiang. He catches them one by one, and they successfully lower all 4 panels. They bring the panels inside and place them by the window where sunlight can reach them. Siona sets up the installation and announces that it's ready. Although the panels are supposed to be outside, the snow prevents it, so they have to use the indoor setup. Xiang asks if it will still be efficient, and Siona explains that in bright sunlight, it could charge a phone up to 50%. Since the sun is barely out, they decide to wait for better conditions. The next morning, they wake up to see that the phone they had plugged in since the previous day is still at 9%. Even worse, the estimated remaining charging time reads 12 days, 6 hours, and 7 minutes. Xiang is horrified. They gained only 8% in an entire day. Siona is disappointed as well, frustrated that all their efforts setting up the solar generator resulted in so little progress. Xiang reminds her that the sun isn't out, but Siona is still heartbroken. However, Xiang points out that this has at least shown them where they need to go after leaving the office, the company's warehouse, where they can find food ingredients and essential tools for survival. Siona is happy with the suggestion, but wonders how they will get there. Xiang explains that they will use the phone's map if the car's GPS doesn't work. Still, the low battery remains a problem. He considers drawing a map on paper, and Siona tells him she's ready to follow whatever plan he comes up with. She reveals that the warehouse is near her house, and that she knows the route well from her walks there. Xiang smiles, thrilled that they teamed up, and Siona feels stronger with a partner by her side. He admires how capable she is and how willing she is to work hard. Even though her feet must be cold, she has never once tried to take his boots. Suddenly, Xiang asks Siona her shoe size. Surprised, she listens as he explains that he saw some boots and is thinking of getting them for her. Excited, Siona tells him her size. Xiang is glad to see her happy and declines her offer to come with him, insisting he will get the boots himself. Moments later, Xiang returns with the boots, and they fit Siona perfectly. As she beams with excitement, the status window opens, notifying Xiang that he has officially formed a party. Xiang realizes that coins earned by his party members now also become his, and he is shocked. This is his first time seeing it. He wonders if the status window shop isn't the only benefit of having party members. Suddenly, he understands that having more allies could be a huge advantage, though he isn't sure exactly how it works. He speculates that it might be because he gave Siona an item from the shop as a gift. Siona begins to thank him, but he is lost in thought. She points at him, snapping him back to reality, and asks if he's okay. Xiang claims he's just a little dizzy from not eating well, prompting Siona to suggest they get something to eat. On the 14th day of survival, the duo has been out of water for 3 days, and Xiang is extremely thirsty. He tells Siona they need to melt snow. Siona fetches paper and documents while Xiang prepares a spot on a roof for a fire, wanting to avoid burning the building. When Siona returns, Xiang hesitates, knowing the smoke could attract plunderers. His thirst, however, outweighs the risk. He lights the fire, and the papers begin to burn. They warm themselves first, then gather snow in the frying pan and melt it over the fire. At last, they have drinking water. Xiang is relieved to finally have warm water, and Siona remarks on how comforting it feels, almost forgetting what warmth is like. They feel proud of each other for not giving up and encourage one another to keep surviving. The next morning, Siona wakes frantically. Xiang asks what's wrong, and she points toward the building across from theirs. The group from the other building has left them a message. Xiang asks what it says, and Siona reveals that they are planning to leave their building to join them. Xiang immediately becomes hyperactive and asks Siona if she has seen the message. Siona says she just woke up and saw it as well. Suddenly, they notice the trio from the other building moving at an alarming speed. The monsters. Xiang worries that they might be trying to reach them, assuming they have significant resources, but he can't tell if they are friends or foes. Unsure, he and Siona decide that joining them might not be worth the risk. While they are discussing, the three men emerge from their building. Masks cover their faces, and they carry a sledgehammer and shield. Xiang realizes they are in serious trouble. He immediately tells Siona to start packing their things. Meanwhile, the trio efficiently fights zombies outside, moving faster than Xiang anticipated and executing a well-coordinated plan. At their current speed, Xiang estimates they will reach him and Siona in about 15 minutes. Xiang finishes packing first and asks Siona if she's done. She replies that she's almost done. The trio encounters a horde of zombies, but instead of fighting head-on, they cleverly avoid them and break into the company building through a door that had been keeping outside zombies from entering. Once Siona finishes packing, she points toward the solar setup, but Xiang tells her to forget it. She hesitates, conflicted about losing access to electricity, but Xiang reminds her that survival comes first. She nods and stands up. As they step out of the office, they see the three men approaching. Xiang quickly considers the best position to defend themselves. The roof would be easy to defend, but dangerous in the long term due to the cold. He decides instead to head down to the 6th floor, believing it offers a better balance of safety and defensibility. Xiang tells Siona that they need to block the entrance and hold their ground, and she agrees. They prepare themselves as the three intimidating men approach. While waiting, they realize the trio is scouting for survivors. Before long, the men reach the 5th floor. Xiang tells Siona to get ready, but to their surprise, the trio stops and doesn't come up any further. Something feels off. Suddenly, a loud bang shakes them to their feet. Confused, Xiang wonders why the trio would use explosives when only 2 people are in the building. Then it hits him. He remembers the warning note left by the previous survivor telling him to avoid the 5th floor, and Siona's mention of Manager Choi possibly being alive. This suggests that the trio might be on either the 3rd or 5th floor. Xiang decides they should go down to investigate, and although Siona is hesitant, he insists it's a hunch worth following. On the floor below, they find the area completely overturned. Xiang urges Siona to stay alert. Suddenly, Siona points to something nearby. They turn to see corpses. Xiang tells her to stay back while he investigates. He approaches and finds only 2 bodies, deepening the mystery. Noticing that the door is completely blown off, he proceeds cautiously. Soon, they hear a voice shouting threats. Xiang recognizes it immediately. It's Choi. He rushes into the room and sees Choi trapped under a chair. Horrified, Xiang notices that Choi's legs appear to be gone. Choi screams, begging for help, pleading that he isn't ready to die, and begging Xiang to help even just once. Xiang stands frozen, unsure how to respond. Siona arrives beside him, hearing the voice before noticing Choi. She turns, horrified at the sight. Choi continues his desperate pleas, but Xiang finally tells him that they cannot help. Without medical knowledge or supplies, there is nothing they can do. Choi screams in agony, desperately insisting that he wants to live. In his desperation, he claims there is a way. Since zombies are undead, they could infect him so he won't truly die. He even suggests being taken to the 1st floor so he can get bitten on his own. Xiang approaches him firmly, telling Choi that none of his suggestions are possible. Choi erupts in rage, shouting that he stopped looters from reaching the top floor and accusing Xiang and Siona of refusing to help because they are having an affair. He continues his tirade, claiming that Siona once was all over him and now she's all over Xiang, calling her a derogatory name, and insists it would be better if they all died together. Seeing that one explosive remains in the room, he begins crawling toward it. Suddenly, he is impaled from behind by Siona's makeshift mop weapon. Afterward, Xiang and Siona search through the looters' belongings, confirming that the dead men were indeed looters. Disappointed, they find nothing truly valuable. The shield they used is damaged from the explosion and useless, while the hammer is heavy, leaving Xiang unsure if he should take it. Xiang reassures Siona that Choi would have died anyway from blood loss and shock, and killing him was a mercy. He tells her she has no reason to feel guilty. Siona notes that they could have turned Choi into a zombie as he requested, but Xiang points out that they would have had to kill him either way. Siona agrees, acknowledging that his reasoning is correct. Suddenly, Siona draws Xiang's attention to the building's exterior. A horde of zombies is now moving inside, unimpeded. On the community group, people are confused about the explosion and the sudden movement of the horde. Xiang immediately realizes that more looters may soon follow, adding to their problem, along with the already incoming zombies. Monitoring the area, Xiang notes that while some zombies have moved away, most remain nearby, and the lobby offers barely any room to move. He tells Siona they must plan to leave by the next day at the latest, before the zombies block the emergency exit. Siona agrees. They decide to check the situation on the first floor, attaching flashlights to their heads for mobility. As they move cautiously, Siona suddenly stops and asks Xiang if he hears a noise. He listens carefully and realizes the sound is coming from above them. They move cautiously and soon spot a zombie in the office ahead. Siona freezes in fear, wondering if Choi has turned, but Xiang quickly reassures her that Choi is dead. He reminds her that Choi's head was punctured, so there's no chance he could become a zombie. Siona suggests that perhaps one of the looters downstairs got bitten and made their way up, but Xiang dismisses this. He explains that a bitten looter would have turned before reaching them. Xiang speculates that the zombie might be a survivor from the third floor who moved up to the fifth, or could have crawled in through the broken fifth-floor window. The thought terrifies them, but they hope it's just a ladder. Xiang decides they should retreat to the first floor. As they descend, they are horrified to find the first floor crawling with zombies. Xiang had expected trouble, but not on this scale. He immediately writes off the first floor as a viable exit. Zombies roam near the security room, leaving him to wonder about Jong, who would have sensed the danger more quickly. Xiang tells Siona they have no chance of leaving through the first floor. He suggests checking the parking lot. Siona admits she had considered it, but remembers zombies there the last time she looked. They decide to investigate again and head to the basement. They are relieved to find only a small number of zombies in the parking area. Xiang notes that the basement is much safer than the first floor. It also offers cover with the many vehicles there, and the lack of wind means zombies are less likely to detect them. Siona notices a reflection in a convex mirror above them and reports that she can see part of the B1 floor. After a closer look, she confirms that she can only see the entrance connecting the passageway to B1 and notes that the number of zombies on both floors seems similar. Xiang stops her before she grows more worried and suggests they head to the 7th floor first. The two sit down to plan their next moves. Siona mentions that it would be ideal if they could escape by car, highlighting the challenges that still lie ahead. However, they worry that the car has been sitting in the cold for too long and the battery may have discharged. Because of this, Xiang suggests ruling out the use of cars. Siona wishes they had bicycles, but with none available, they have no choice but to walk. The two begin planning their route and strategy, and soon their preparations are complete. Only the journey itself remains. That night, the cold intensifies, making it difficult for them to sleep. Siona is the first to notice that Xiang is awake. She points out that he's been tossing and turning like a worm, and asks if he's worried about Jong. Xiang admits he is. Siona reassures him that Jong is welcome to join them, which Xiang appreciates, but he hesitates, not wanting to put both of their lives at risk. He is disappointed because Jong seems trustworthy, and Siona, sensing this, insists she's okay with Jong coming along. With her permission, Xiang decides to send Jong a message. He apologizes in advance if the phone's brightness is too much and texts Jong, telling him that they plan to leave the following morning and that he should meet them at the emergency exit by 6 a.m. if he wants to join. The next morning, by 5:40 a.m., Xiang and Siona are already awake and ready. Xiang checks his phone and sees 2 comments on his message, but neither appears to be from Jong. The anonymous users only wish him luck on the journey outside. Disappointed, Xiang considers the possibility that Jong might still be waiting at the meeting spot. The two begin descending the floors, arriving at the emergency exit a little before 6 a.m. No one is there. 3 minutes past the agreed time, Siona suggests they wait a bit longer. They remain by the door, and when it reaches 6:05 a.m. with no sign of Jong, they realize it's time to move. As they move, they spot a zombie that wasn't there during their planning and decide to eliminate it first. They carefully enter the basement, avoiding any sudden movements that might draw attention from other zombies. Moving around the cars to stay hidden, they position themselves strategically. Once Xiang is ready, he strikes the ground with his foot, drawing the zombie's attention. The zombie charges at Xiang, but Siona swiftly moves behind it and takes it down, impaling it with her makeshift spear. Xiang receives a notification that a party member earned a coin, and he praises Siona with a thumbs up for her skill. With the threat neutralized, they continue with their plan. Soon, they reach the outside and are shocked by the intense cold. Xiang had anticipated harsh weather, but not this extreme. Siona remarks that they would be doomed if they were trapped out here. Moving carefully through the snow, they also try to avoid drawing the attention of zombies. After a while, Siona admits they aren't making as much progress as she had imagined. Xiang reminds her that it's still better than staying in the building and risking a confrontation with looters. They finally reach their first destination, but proceed cautiously, aware that zombies could be lurking nearby. Just a few meters from their goal, the wind picks up, alarming them both. Xiang realizes the wind could carry their scent, alerting zombies in the area. Before they can react, several zombies catch their scent and start rushing toward them. Panic sets in. Xiang worries that heading to the park would be fatal, as falling snow and uneven ground could make noise and attract even more zombies. He concludes that the safest option is to move inside a building, but he's unsure which one to choose. Xiang realizes that any open entrances are already swarming with zombies, and breaking into closed spaces would only draw more attention. He stands frozen, unsure what to do next. Suddenly, he spots a bus on the left. The two rush over and try to open it, but it proves difficult. Siona suggests breaking the glass to gain access, but Xiang tells her to hold off. Upon closer inspection, Xiang notices a key sticking out of the ignition. With some effort, he pries open the door, and they barely slip inside, just in time to avoid being overrun. Still, the windows pose a problem. Zombies could break through at any moment. Outside, the noise has drawn even more of them. Xiang rushes to the ignition and keeps trying to start the bus, while Siona stands guard. Zombies press against the doors, but Xiang pushes them back with a spear. They both silently pray, hearts racing, hoping the bus will start. Just when all seems lost, the engine roars to life, and relief floods over them. Xiang immediately steps on the gas, launching the bus forward. Siona loses her balance and falls, but quickly gets up, assuring Xiang she's unharmed. With Siona safe, Xiang focuses on driving. They navigate through the snowy, treacherous terrain and finally reach a secure spot where they can block the bus entrance. However, zombies still surround the vehicle, leaving them uncertain about their next move. Siona suggests luring the zombies away, and Xiang agrees, though he knows it would require someone to draw their attention. As they debate their plan, the horde continues to close in, and Xiang fears the bus might be overturned. His mind races for a solution. Suddenly, a loud crash echoes as something falls from a nearby building, immediately attracting the zombies' attention. The noise draws the zombies, and they rush toward its source. Siona lets out a sigh of relief. They had narrowly escaped death. Both are grateful to have survived the tight spot. Peeking outside the bus, they notice a few zombies still lingering, but Siona is confident the creatures will eventually wander off. As they catch their breath, Xiang wonders who saved them. Siona points toward the building from which the object fell, estimating it came from the second or third floor. Squinting, Xiang notices the figure has long hair and concludes their savior is a woman. She's holding binoculars, scanning the area. Siona quickly writes a thank you message on her phone and presses it against the bus window. Their savior responds with a thumbs up, and both Xiang and Siona feel a surge of hope, realizing some humanity still survives. Xiang jokes that he would have loved to offer their savior a cup of noodles, given how close they were, but Siona points out they have nothing left to give. Laughing together, they reminisce about their time in the company building, momentarily easing the tension. Outside, some zombies continue to roam around the bus, but Xiang and Siona remain safely trapped inside. The cold night seeps into their bones, forcing them to wrap themselves in blankets and huddle close for warmth. Xiang notices Siona's pallor and asks if she feels pain anywhere. Surprised that he's still awake, Siona shakes her head. Xiang sneezes, immediately realizing that even a small weakness in this environment could be dangerous. Xiang stands, cautiously scanning the area to see if any zombies have caught wind of the noise. Thankfully, the area is clear. He turns to Siona, asking if she woke up because of the cold. Nervously, she admits she did but insists she's fine. Xiang grabs her hand, explaining that they're both feeling the same chill and warns that they'll be in serious trouble if they don't warm up soon. Siona asks if there's a way to warm themselves without lighting a fire. Xiang thinks for a moment, cheeks reddening, and suggests they build a fire inside the bus. Siona is shocked, pointing out the risk of suffocation. Xiang reassures her that they'll make holes in the roof to vent the smoke. Still, he worries that breaking windows could create too much noise and attract zombies. Thinking quickly, Siona pushes her spear through the roof, punching a hole. Xiang, impressed, suggests making 3 more holes, which she happily does. With a small fire, now safely venting smoke, they warm themselves inside the bus. Xiang is grateful they brought paper to start the fire, and Siona agrees. It would have been impossible without it. Just then, Siona points out a post on the community group, uploaded the previous day. The message is apparently from the person who helped them, asking to join them on the bus and requesting a positive or negative reply. Xiang decides to confirm it's truly their savior. He asks for the building location, and the person provides a detailed description. Still cautious, Xiang asks for the brand of the car in front of the convenience store. When the answer is correct, Xiang and Siona are satisfied. They thank their savior, who immediately offers to follow them wherever they're going. Later, one community member shares a story about narrowly surviving a zombie attack at his window. The zombie, he claims, was crawling toward him, and he managed to knock it off with whatever objects he had on hand. The creature fell and died on impact, revealing itself to be the director of a nearby indoor rock climbing gym. This makes Xiang and Siona wonder if the zombies might retain some of their previous skills and abilities even after turning. Once morning breaks, Xiang and Siona prepare to exit the bus. Siona mentions the post about zombies evolving into mutants. Xiang tells her he isn't surprised. He had already anticipated something like this. Siona asks how he could predict it, and Xiang explains that the 5th floor window, where Choi died, had been shattered from the explosion. He believes zombies climbed up there, giving them new abilities. The two head to the meeting point to rendezvous with their savior. By 9 a.m., a woman appears, waving eagerly. Xiang and Siona are relieved to see her, and the woman returns their enthusiasm. Xiang remarks on how their group is now a team of 3, but before they can celebrate, a zombie suddenly leaps out of nowhere, attacking their savior. It smashes her to the ground and bites her. Xiang and Siona stand frozen in horror, watching the zombie tear into their potential teammate. Xiang covers his mouth, aghast, as more zombies arrive, drawn by the scent of blood. He turns to Siona, urgently telling her that staying there means certain death. She hesitates, shaken by the sight, but Xiang grabs her, reassuring her that he understands her fear, but their only chance of survival is to move. Siona pulls herself together, and together they flee. They reach the entrance of a subway station, and Xiang pauses, weighing the risks. The surface is perilous, with unpredictable threats, but the subway might be worse. Crowds of people could have already turned into zombies. Just as the wind blows against them, they realize they have no choice and descend into the subway. Siona is surprised to find the area eerily quiet. Only corpses litter the floor, apparently trampled by panicked crowds. Xiang surmises that the zombies are likely clustered elsewhere in the station since the bodies are sparse. Suddenly, Siona taps him on the shoulder, pointing ahead. Xiang turns, and his eyes light up with excitement. Realizing that they are standing in front of a convenience store, the two enter, but their hope to get something is ultimately crushed when they realize it is empty. This basically tells why there are no zombies in the area. And notices that the soda cans were smashed, and she suggests they check the storage. Just then, find some cans of beer that were obviously left there by someone. Looks at a while, asking her if they should take just 2 cans from the bunch. After this, they check the clothing store, but even that store has been emptied. Sha had some hope since they are in the summer, but she was shocked that every piece of clothing in the store was gone. Just then, Sean mentions that the cell phone shop next door was not looted at all. Sean then tells her that they still have some distance to trek, even though it is not more than 20 kilometers. Sona then says she had earlier seen something strange on the wall and took a picture of it. She shows the picture she's talking about. The writing on the wall appears to be a note from a survivor who talks about how lost they are since they don't know what to do or where to go. In the note, the survivor adds that the chaos surpassed what they imagined. After reading this, Jang is shocked with what he just read. He believes that the person is giving off vibes that they know about the zombie outbreak. Sean assumes that the note is a very creepy one. And just then, Sha's phone died. Xiang then suggests it is time they continue moving. As they walk further on the subway, Sion talks about how clean everything is, which makes it suspicious. Siona agrees, since she was expecting to see bats or at least some random animals. In addition to this, there are no zombie corpses, and she assumes they are gathered somewhere. Suddenly, they find a subway train, and he beckons to Sona to stop talking so they can stay on guard. They start checking through the carriage and are shocked at how neat it is. They soon find a small box, and inside it is a small knife. In addition, Jong finds a Bluetooth speaker. Sha believes they can use it later to draw zombies away. They continue searching the area, but they find nothing. Sienna believes they would have gotten more loot if they had come earlier. After searching the whole coach without seeing anything else, they step out. Just then, they see a dark figure in front of them. It turns out to be a zombie, but when they point their flashlight at it, there is no reaction. The size of the zombie scares them as it is very huge. Sienna then mentions that she knows who the person is. Sienna says the zombie was a pro baseball player in the KBO before he retired. Xiong then realizes this was the reason the zombie was built like a tank. Sean suggests they avoid the zombie as much as they can. Slowly, the two start walking by the zombie, but just as they are about to go past it, the zombie catches wind of their scent. Without hesitation, it comes running at them. Sean prepares himself to take on the zombie, but as it gets even closer, he realizes the zombie is absurdly fast. Zhang places his makeshift spear in the perfect position for the zombie, and it runs into it. Once he has managed to restrict the zombie's movement, he screams at Siona, telling her to get into position. Sona runs at the zombie and hits it on the head with a golf club. However, this is not enough to take out the zombie, as the club breaks apart while the zombie's head remains intact. The zombie is more pissed than before, and it immediately turns its attention to Xiaoné. It is as if the zombie doesn't have a rod sticking out of its chest. He weaves off Zhang and tries to grab. Even X can feel the difference in strength. Sona's athleticism saves her as she dodges the zombie's grasp. She weaves to the other side before pushing the knife she found into the zombie's head. This is enough to take down the zombie as it crashes to the ground. Cyan A and Sang are both stunned by how strong the zombie is. Shang is shocked the zombie was still able to move, even with a spear stuck in its body. Siong apologizes to Siona, telling her he should have tried to hold on to the zombie. However, Siona assures him it is fine since there was nothing else he could have done in the situation. She stands over the fallen zombie and pulls the knife from its head. Sona then asks Shon what they should do with it, suggesting they fasten it to the other end of the spear to make the weapon deadlier. Sean is impressed by the idea and admits it is a smart move. With the wooden spear's tip worn out and the knife still sharp, he believes the combination will work perfectly. In no time, they finish the modification, and the spear now looks far more dangerous than before. Zhang suggests they start moving again, reminding them they have already rested enough while making repairs. Sha agrees, urging that they continue their journey. Before long, Siona vents her frustration, pointing out that they have passed 5 trains without finding anything useful. Xiang assumes someone must have cleared the area before them. Siona then mentions they're getting close to Sinindon Station. Suddenly, a loud sound erupts ahead of them, resembling an explosion. A wave of fear surges through their bodies. Sean doesn't know exactly what it is, but he is certain heading that way would be the wrong choice. The two rush back the way they came, gasping for breath as they stumble into one of the trains. Sona begins to ask a question, but Zhang quickly shushes her. They crouch by the window, keeping watch outside. Sean feels something approaching, the tension in the air thickening. Moments later, a massive horde of zombies comes charging toward their location. Sona quietly asks if they should fight, but Sean tells her to wait. Both of them stand by the train door, bracing for what might come. Luckily, the horde surges past without noticing them. They exhale in relief, though Sean warns it is too soon to relax. Xiang is convinced this horde isn't the last. Sean, however, is left uncertain, questioning whether moving toward a station swarming with zombies could ever be the right decision. Their other option is to head toward the opposite direction where the explosion came from. But the problem is that they haven't been there before, so they can't know what to expect. One suggests that they just hide, but Sean doesn't want this, saying it is too risky. Sean reminds them that the last time the zombies passed, they were rushing toward something, which is why they missed their scent. However, zombies walking slowly will definitely catch on to it. Sona understands where Xiang is coming from and tells him she is going to follow any instruction he lays out. Xiang then suggests that they go back the way they came and that they need to move quickly to prevent the zombies from spotting them. Sana agrees with him, and together they start moving in the direction they came from. They walk past zombies with sweat dripping down their faces in fear. They soon arrive at Section 3, and Zhang climbs up the railside. He is confident they can avoid the zombies as long as they don't make a mistake. Xiong stretches his hand to Shauna to try and drag her up the railing. However, the sweat on his hand makes pulling her pretty hard. Just then, Xiang loses his grip, and C crashes to the ground. Sona's landing makes a noise that immediately catches the attention of zombies close by. She watches in horror as they rush toward her. Xiong screams at her, telling her to get on her feet. Adrenaline pumps through his body, and with one pull, he drags her to the top of the railing. However, one of the zombies grabs Sha's leg and almost pulls off her winter boot. Once Sha is safe, Sean tells her to run for it. Without wasting time, the two start running and head to the upper part of the subway. They run into a zombie on the stairs, but Xiang dodges while C stabs the zombie with a spear. The two continue up the stairs, and they soon run into another zombie, but nothing is stopping them. Sean drives her spear into the zombie's head, killing it instantly. Another zombie appears again, but the two are fueled with adrenaline. Their survival instincts have taken over, and they quickly take down the next one too. They push the zombie to the ground and, without hesitation, stab its head. Once they realize there are no more zombies nearby, the two collapse to the floor, breathing heavily. Shang mentions that they just survived a close call, and Sha agrees with him. Shang then asks Sha what the outside looks like. Sha replies that she can't see any zombies in the area. Sean is relieved that they are alive, and just then, he remembers Sha's leg. It suddenly dawns on Siona that she might have been scratched by a zombie. She pulls off her winter boot to check her ankle and, to her shock, find a claw mark. Sienna freezes in fear, believing she is about to turn, but Zhang quickly calms her. He explains it is just a scratch from the zombie's claw, not its teeth. Sana still looks worried until Zhang assures her that she will be fine. He tells her he once got scratched the same way, but nothing happened. She asks again to be sure, and he reassures her that he was fine afterward. After hearing his repeated assurance, Siona bursts into tears of relief. She tells Xiong she thought she was completely done for. Moments later, Xiong helps her disinfect the wound, easing her mind. He is glad they found a first aid kit, even if it isn't complete. Xiong then tells Siona to rest. As she settles down, he searches the room and soon finds a key. He continues looking through the office and eventually discovers the logbook. Inside the logbook, he finds the password to the locker. Zhang then heads to the locker, shocking Sha as she realizes he knew what he was doing from the moment they entered the room. She becomes even more curious and asks how he knew where to look, and he confesses that he used to work in a subway. That was when he learned that they often wrote the safe codes in the logbook. Zhang successfully opens the safe, but Siona wonders if there is anything interesting inside. Xiang explains that the safe mostly contains keys for use within the station. However, what he was looking for was not a key, but something else that could be useful to them. Sean finds a wooden box in the safe, and inside it lies a gas gun. Sean explains that subway stations always have a gas gun stored away. Siona is surprised to hear this and asks Sean why a subway station would even have a gun. Sean reveals that since station staff usually collect cash in the morning, the gun is kept in case of a robbery. Sean then passes the box to Sha, telling her to hold on to it. Sha refuses, saying she has never touched a gun and doesn't think she would know how to use it when the time came. Zhang realizes she is right. He then reaches into his bag and brings out the key he found in the office. Siona asks what the key is for, and he excitedly explains that it opens the station staff room. Siona is thrilled to hear this and tells him to quickly open the door. Xiang pushes the key into the keyhole, and fortunately, it works. The two exchange excited looks and stroll into the room. After walking a few meters inside, they're stunned to see a man sitting in the corner, covered with a blanket. He looks terribly pale. Once they recover from the shock, they investigate to check if he is still alive. Sona examines him and reports that the poor fellow is dead. She concludes that he likely died from starvation rather than infection. Siona and Sean take some clothes from the dead man, since they badly need them. That night, the two share the same bed, and Siona suggests that they take the blankets with them even if they move. Siong is worried they might not be able to carry them, but Siona thinks they can since they're low on food and supplies. Their bags are almost empty, which will make room for the blankets. Shang agrees with her suggestion and urges her to get some sleep since they have been running around all day. In the middle of the night, Zhang gets up to check their food supply. He realizes they only have 2 days of food left. He knows they must reach the warehouse before it runs out, or they will be in trouble. Still, Zhang is confident they can make it there as long as nothing goes wrong. Sean looks through the status screen to check out the clothes available. He finds winter clothes listed at 3 coins. Sean knows it is getting colder outside, though they don't feel it yet since they are underground. He worries they will need to prepare once they return to the surface. Seong assesses the situation and realizes things underground are getting worse, meaning they will spend more time above ground. He considers buying winter clothes for both him and Shirona since he has enough coins, but he holds off, deciding to wait since they don't need them yet. Just then, he notices that the shop now has new items that weren't there before. He buys an unknown item that Zhang is sure will be useful if used properly. The next morning, Zhang wakes while Shirona struggles to get up, enjoying her sleep. When they step outside, they find buses toppled on their sides, clearly being used to block the path. Shirona climbs up and freezes in shock when she sees what is behind them. Hidden beyond the buses is a massive horde of zombies. She scrambles down with fear written all over her face, revealing that there are at least hundreds of them. Seong immediately suggests that they try the other side. Shirona reminds him that the subway is the only short route that connects to their destination. She asks what they are supposed to do, and Seong replies that their only option is to head to the surface. However, the wind outside is dangerously strong. Sha worries that zombies will easily catch their scent. Since they cannot erase their smell, Seong suggests going back to search in case they miss something. Just as they turn into the darkness, Zhang pauses to examine an item that catches his eye in the shop. The item is called the Explorer, which allows hidden items to be purchased if they exist. If the item doesn't exist, the Explorer is not consumed, but if it does, the Explorer vanishes whether the item is bought or not. Its price is only 1 coin. Zhang purchases the Explorer, which appears as a search icon. He commands it to search for a vaccine, but the result comes back negative. He tries zombie vaccine, but again nothing appears. Then he attempts zombie antibodies, yet the search is still empty. He continues testing different words, but all disappoint him. Although he expected failure, he still believed it was worth trying. Finally, he asks it to search for a deodorizer. This time, the Explorer locates one for a cost of 1 coin, and it lasts for 90 minutes. Sean is relieved to find at least this, though shocked at its high cost. Their journey to the target location will take about 4 hours, meaning they will need at least 3 deodorizers. Checking his balance, he finds only 7 coins left. Even so, Zhang knows he has no choice but to buy them despite saving his coins. He collects the deodorizers and hands 1 bottle to her. She is surprised and asks where he got them. He claims to have found them hidden on top of the platform. Excited that they now have deodorizers, she still worries they might not work. Sean suggests trying them, saying in the worst case they can run back into the subway. The two apply the deodorizer on their bodies and their backpacks as well. Once ready, they step out of the subway, and Zhang advises that they position themselves properly in case they encounter zombies. Just then, the wind blows even harder. Sona spots a zombie close to their location. They cautiously move nearer, and to their surprise, the zombie does not react to them. They wonder if the deodorizer is really working, but suddenly the zombie lets out a loud scream into the air. Shirona and Seong freeze, unsure if they have been detected. Fortunately, the zombie turns away, confirming that the deodorizer is effective. Seong suggests they keep moving since there is nothing to fear. While walking, they pass by a gun store that looks surprisingly intact. Seong thinks looters may have already taken the weapons, or perhaps the store is guarded by its owner. Shirona agrees and urges they continue on, noting that anyone inside would surely be armed. Before long, they arrive at Suyu Station. Seong feels disappointed with the progress, believing they should have already reached Yudong by now. He proposes that they search for a place to stay overnight. Seong checks the right side, while Shirona takes the left. Zhang notices some windows are still intact, but then he spots zombies roaming in the area and quickly realizes it is not a safe option. He meets back with Shirona, who also failed to secure a good spot. Seong explains that the best location would be one that is free of zombies, but sealed enough to keep others from entering. They move into a nearby building to investigate. After several minutes, Shirona concludes the coast is clear, seeing no zombies around. She attempts to open one of the doors, but it refuses to budge. Frustrated, she suggests breaking it open. Seong warns against it, reminding her that the noise could draw zombies to their location. Shirona reluctantly agrees, But just as she turns away, Sean tells her there might be another way. Even though he is not completely sure, he decides to trust his instincts. Looking around, he manages to get his hands on some spare keys. Siona is shocked to see this, asking how he did it. Zhang explains that he had noticed the cafe usually stays open late, and since there are always shifts between closing and opening staff, spare keys are sometimes hidden nearby. The two gain access to the cafe, and Siona smiles with excitement. Luckily, they discover flour and eggs that are still untouched. Siona asks what they should do with the flour, and Zhang suggests they leave it and return later, since it is too heavy to carry. She then proposes stashing it somewhere safe instead, and Zhang agrees, calling it a brilliant idea. Along with the food, they also find a power bank and a wristwatch. Zhang notes that at their current pace, they should be able to reach the warehouse by the following day. He stresses that getting there is crucial if they want to avoid trouble. Zhang also mentions that they have only 4 chocolate bars left. Hearing this, Sona voices her worry, thinking there might already be people inside the warehouse. She then comes up with another idea, setting a code word in case either of them gets into trouble. Without hesitation, Xiang agrees to the smart plan. They decide to create simple signals for different threats. Siona suggests that if they're threatened with ranged weapons like guns, they should speak casually. Xiang adds that if they face melee attackers, they should use polite speech. He then tells Siona to call him Oe if the situation is manageable. But if things are uncertain, she should instead refer to him as assistant manager. If they find themselves in a position where they need to run, he suggests that she call him senior. With these code words, Siona believes their words will not stand out too much, and they will be able to talk even more naturally. The two are glad that they came up with something useful, but suddenly thunder and lightning strike the area. This shocks them both since thunder and lightning are not common during snowy weather. Xiang realizes that the snow will pile up even more. She is worried that their journey the next day will be worse. Trying not to think about tomorrow's problems, she says she is going to get some rest. While Siona is sleeping, Xiang hears a strange noise outside. He stands to check and is surprised to see a man on a motorcycle. Xiang finally understands that motorcycles can move through snowy roads. However, he wonders why the man is traveling so late at night. Even more surprising, the motorcycle seems to be heading in the same direction as them. Xiang does not want to overthink it, and assumes the rider might be going elsewhere. Just then, he notices a horde of zombies following the motorcycle's trail. Siona wakes to see the zombies moving like sheep. She is worried because they appear to number in the hundreds. Xiang hits his head in frustration, realizing that even if they face only a fraction of them, their journey has gotten harder. 2 scenarios form in his head. The first is that the riders stumbled upon the horde and escaped, or the second, that he is deliberately leading them somewhere. Xiang fears they will get caught in whatever plan the rider has. With food running low and their destination just a little over 3 kilometers away, turning back is not an option. Xiang suggests they check the community group for information. The first post mentioned the thunder strike, which many find strange. They scroll further and see a post about a shelter. Apparently, a massive shelter exists, and some people are heading there. However, some people do not believe the shelter exists since there is no government to regulate such things. Another user reports that he found a shelter, but claims it is not a shelter at all, rather a cult. He reveals that he barely escaped and advises against going there, saying it is dangerous. Some argue against this, saying people cannot change that fast since it has only been a month since the zombie outbreak. After reading through the arguments and heated takes in the group, Siona asks for his opinion. Xiang agrees that the shelter seems shady since the outbreak occurred only 3 weeks ago and they already have a shelter large enough to contain people. On top of that, there's steady supplies coming in. Xiang recalls that Yun was heading to the west coast. He wonders if they can catch up to him to at least get some intel. Xiang suggests they forget about the shelter for now, and she agrees with him. Xiang feels disappointed that there is no update about the rider. He then tells her that they will just have to stick to their original plan. With this, the two continue their journey, trying to reach the warehouse. Xiang warns Xia that they may have to retreat if they run into a horde along the way. Soon after, they use the last deodorizers they have, and Xiang tells Xia they must move quickly. Not long after, the fog grows thicker, blocking their visibility. He checks his wristwatch and realizes the deodorizer effect has worn off. He explains they will have no choice but to fight their way out if they encounter zombies. Just then, Siona spots the warehouse and quickly calls Xiang's attention to it. His face lights up with joy at the sight of how massive the warehouse is. He feels confident that with such a place, they will no longer have to worry about supplies. Sia tries opening the warehouse door, but it refuses to budge. Sia suspects that something is wrong, and in addition to this, there is barbed wire running over the warehouse, which was not there before. She asks Xiang if he has been there recently, but he says the last time he came was a couple of months back. Xiang then suggests that they try to find another way into the warehouse. Sha soon spots a section of the fence where the barbed wire is weak. She tells Xiang that she's going to climb over. However, Xiang stops her, saying it is too dangerous to just jump in without knowing the situation inside the warehouse. In addition to that, Xiang is worried as to why that area is the only place left unsecured. She then reminds Xiang that they have no choice. She explains that the deodorizer's effect is already gone, and they need shelter as well as food. After hearing this, Xiang agrees, but he tells Sha to be careful since there could be danger lurking inside the warehouse. Sha steps on Xiang's hands and uses them to propel herself over the fence. She stands on top and says that the warehouse looks empty. She adds that she's going to jump down, but she does not notice a strange figure hiding behind cover. Just as Siona lands on the ground, the figure emerges, points a gun at her head, and orders her to raise her hands. The man searches Siona's body and feels relieved that she has no weapons. He then asks her about her companion, and Siona answers honestly, saying her companion is outside. He asks how many, and she replies one. He then orders her to call him through the front gate. With a gun to her head, she tells Xiang to come to the front gate. Xiang already knows that something is wrong when he hears this. Since she is speaking casually, Xiang figures she is being held hostage with a ranged weapon. He also realizes that Siona called him Oe, which means they can handle the assailant. Since this is the case, Xiang reaches into his backpack and grabs the gun he stashed there. Xiang tells the assailant that he is stepping forward just as requested. Xiang hides behind the gate, and when the assailant demands that he drop his weapon, Xiang pretends his spear is the only weapon he has. Xiang drops the weapon and starts coming out slowly. Xiang is conflicted on what to do since the gas gun with him has a shorter range, which means he has to get closer. However, Xiang cannot move further without the assailant noticing the gun. Xiang decides to play a game with the assailant. He tells him that he has dropped his weapon and suggests that he let his companion go. The assailant keeps urging Siona to move forward. Xiang is glad to see this, since he just needs the assailant to come a bit closer. Once the assailant is in range, Xiang pops out from where he is hiding and points his gun at the target. Siona is already getting herself ready for the showdown, and she bends down before either of them fires their weapon. Xiang is the first to fire, and the gas hits the assailant in the face, causing him to scream. Screaming in pain, the assailant fires his weapon, too, but the bullet slightly misses. Xiang then runs from his field, while Siona swings into action. She gets behind the assailant and tackles him to the ground. She grabs a duct tape and throws it to Xiang so he can use it to restrain him. Just then, Xiang realizes that the zombies are closing in on his position because of the gunshots. He screams at Siona, telling her to get him the key. Siona tells the man to hand over the key, but he refuses, saying he has no reason to give them the key. Xiang screams, telling him he is running out of time. Siona gets serious with the man and kicks him hard while demanding that he release the key. Siona searches his body and manages to find the key. Siona rushes to the gate to open it, while Xiang is busy fighting the zombies off. Xiang keeps trying to set up keys with her, but none of them seems to be working. Xiang is thrown into survival mode as he knocks zombies down like they are nothing. One of the zombies comes rushing at Xiang at full speed. Xiang dodges the zombie, and just then the zombie slams into the gate. Siona manages to open the door at the right time, screaming at Xiang to enter the compound. Before the zombies can rush inside, the two manage to close the gate. Siona locks the gate with chains and a padlock while asking if he is hurt. Xiang replies that he is fine. Siona is happy to hear this, and Xiang reveals that the gunfire was what attracted the zombies. Once this is settled, the two suggest that it is time they head inside. But they turn around to realize that they still have to deal with the strange man. The man is screaming in pain because the gas burns his eyes. Xiang then tells Siona that they should get him into the building. The two grab him, and just as they raise him up, they realize that it is Jong. After they have settled inside the building and Jong has washed off his burning eyes, Xiang explains to Siona that Jong is the one he met on the first floor. Siona feels guilty as she didn't expect that they were going to meet in such a strange way. Jong also admits that everything turned out strange, and in addition to that, his face still hurts. Xiang apologizes for this, telling Jong that the effect of the gas gun will last for at least a day. Jong says there would have been no need for a fight if they had told him beforehand. But at the same time, he has no excuse since he was the first to use violence. Xiang thanks Jong for coming to terms with what happened. Jong then offers the two a warm cup of tea. As they enjoy the tea, Xiang asks Jong when he arrived at the warehouse, and he reveals that he got there 3 days ago. Jong confesses that the real reason he came was because of the solar panels. Siona's face lights up in shock when she hears that there are solar panels in the warehouse. Apparently, he was about to install them when they arrived, and he explains that he initially put them on the lower windows, but because the efficiency was low, he had to move them up to the roof. Siona is impressed when she hears this, since Jong was reluctant to leave the company building in the first place. Jong then reveals that he is thinking of shielding the solar panels with glass awnings to prevent the snow from falling onto them. Jong mentions that there's a load of supplies for them to work with. Xiang then asks Jong if there is enough supply in the warehouse. Jong explains that the warehouse is well stocked when it comes to construction supplies, but when it comes to food, there's an uncertainty surrounding it. It turns out that the food supply is in Section 2. Jong reveals that when he went there to check it out, the roof of the building had collapsed under the snow. Jong only salvaged what he could from the area. However, none of the food got spoiled because it was frozen. He tells the two that once they have enough manpower, they can retrieve more food supplies. Xiang is relieved to hear this. Xiang then asks the big question. He asks Jong if it is fine with him if they stay at the warehouse. Xiang believes that becoming allies and helping each other out is the best way forward. Xiang and Siona heave a sigh of relief when Jong accepts that they should stay at the warehouse. It turns out that Jong was already planning to ask them to stay. After what happened between them earlier, he figured out that he didn't have the manpower to properly defend the warehouse. He knows that more people will come, and if he is alone, he will eventually lose the warehouse. Jong is glad that the two showed up at the right time to become his allies. Xiang thanks Jong for trusting them. Xiang then points out that the zombies are still all around the warehouse. This is a surprise to Jong, who believes that the horde should have already scattered. Xiang then asks Jong how he was able to get his hands on a gun, and Jong reveals that he picked it off a dead cop. Jong mentions that he has seen the bodies of several people who chose to kill themselves rather than become zombies. Jong says he took the gun and kept it with him for self-defense. However, he ended up using it against Xiang. Xiang then asks him if there are bullets left in the gun, and he says no. He confesses that he had already used all the bullets when fighting him. Siona is worried that with the zombies lingering outside the warehouse, outsiders will not have easy access to the building. Xiang agrees with this, calling it a silver lining. Moments later, Jong prepares ramen for them. Xiang and Siona are both engrossed with the food, and Jong tells them that he will prepare more for them if they want. Siona is so happy that she pulls out the 2 beer cans Xiang had stashed away. While enjoying the sweet ramen, they drink cold beer with it. Jong then raises a toast to new comrades using the beer. After they are done eating to the fullest, the trio talks about how comfortable they feel, which is something they have not experienced in a long time.